Hey there, everybody. Oh, you get Lebowitz to start off. Lebowitz's arm as he's fixing his camera there. Welcome to the CLNS Media. Welcome to the Callin It podcast brought to you by CLNS Media. NFL recap for week. What is this? I'm all over the place here. Week 12 it is. Yes.
Yep.
My name is Alex. My name is Alex Barth, trying to stumble through this. He is Alex Lebowitz, as we do at this time every week, going through the games we saw in the NFL this week. We will preview Sunday and Monday Night Football as well. And in what was really a lackluster week, but you expected that going in. Only one matchup this week, only one matchup in the slate of games that pitted two teams that were both over 500 against each other. That game was pretty entertaining, and we'll get to that. But overall, Lebowitz, we had some interesting stuff happen, not necessarily in the flow of the game, but from a pure football week. I know a lot of people were traveling today, post-Thanksgiving, not a bad week to travel.
Yeah, I didn't think it was that bad of a slate of games, and I was actually one of those people traveling. I didn't get home till early afternoon, so I had to catch back up on the Pats game, had it recorded. But I thought, from what I saw, it wasn't a terrible week in the NFL, especially relative to what we've seen, these first 11 weeks or so. You still have a lot of teams that are in the hunt, and you still have a lot of divisions that aren't wrapped up. And we saw how it's really coming down to the wire in multiple divisions, with the Saints and the Panthers being neck and neck, the Titans and the Jaguars now being neck and neck. There are a lot of games that definitely stuck out, and there are a lot of teams that have continued to stink, the Chiefs being one of them. We'll obviously get to that later, but not much that was very surprising on really any front. It's just kind of, at this point of the season, you kind of see if teams can keep up what they started, or if they can dig themselves out of holes. But really kind of what you'd imagine in with the slated games that we saw this week.
Of course, we'll start, as we always do, with the Patriots. They beat the Dolphins 35-17. More on this one tomorrow. You can check out the Callin It podcast. We're on Twitter. Follow us at Callin It Podcast. You can get us on the CLNS Media app as well. So we will get more into this tomorrow. But my first thought, and I'm actually going to steal a thought from Mike Dussault, who runs Pat's Propaganda. The Patriots invented today the ugly blowout. They were in control for most of this game, but I don't know if it was the 3 plates of nachos I ate before the kickoff or seeing Tom Brady get hit, but I was queasy the whole game. And despite the big numbers, a lot to be uncomfortable about with this one.
Absolutely, and they've had a number of wins like this throughout the years, but there are definitely some concerns with that special teams, a couple injuries with key members, Nate Ebner and Riley. The offensive line, Adrian Waddle going down. You already have Marcus Cannon out, so there's a lack of depth there, and an O-line that has really started to improve in a lot of ways. Overall, I'm not pleased with the win. They still won it. They still won by a wide margin. Their pass rush looked really good, especially in that second half, and their wide receiving core continues to show why they're the best in the NFL.
All right, let's start with the big game of the day, the Grey Cup. We have the Calgary Stampeders and the Toronto. No. Although after we're done with this, watch it, because they're playing in a snow bowl and it's brilliant. The Grey Cup is the CFL championship. No, we'll start in Oakland. Raiders take this one 21-14. Oakland's 5-6. Denver is now 3-8. Two teams that are woefully underperforming what was expected. I mean, you look at the Raiders last week, and they were supposed to be in the playoff race, although 5-6 in the AFC isn't bad. But the story out of this one, of course, Michael Crabtree, Aqib Talib Brown too. I will never understand why NFL players throw punches at guys wearing helmets. It just seems like a good way to break your hand. A lot of bad blood between these two teams, especially between Crabtree and Talib. The score kind of inconsequential. You just saw the frustration boiling over for both teams. And really for Denver, I mean, it just seems like they've quit. You saw Paxton Lynch crying on the sideline after getting pulled, which was bizarre. Trevor Siemian came in, played like trash. Just nothing of any substance from these two teams, who were supposed to be two of the best teams in the AFC.
Yeah, I mean, at least the Raiders have a quarterback that they can use in the future. It kind of sucks when one of your biggest targets gets ejected within the first 2 minutes of the game. And yes, the Broncos were without their top cornerback, but there's, it's fun to see competitors go at it like that, even when they get ejected. But once they get ejected, you're really losing a lot of quality in that game. But yeah, I think the Broncos, especially, just the downfall, the spiral that they're on is huge. That defense just is not what they used to be. They're not going to be the same. They're too old now. And when you don't have a quarterback in this league, you're just not going to win many games.
I mean, real all that's left for them is Talib and Harris, and you have to wonder when those guys are just going to kind of give up on it and decide it's not worth it. Like I mentioned, there was one game which had two teams above 500. That was the Rams and the Saints, bringing in an 8-game winning streak. New Orleans on the road couldn't get it done. They are now 8-3. The Rams also move up to 8-3, so it's tight atop of that NFC. The NFC is going to have a fantastic finish. Rams again 26-20 in this one. Jared Goff was over 300 yards at the end of the third quarter, and Alvin Kamara just continues to be the surprise of the year. I think he's going to be the NFC Rookie of the Year. I don't know who would come close to him. I think we see these two teams again in the playoffs. I really hope we see these two teams again in the playoffs. This was a great game. They actually more or less filled up the Coliseum. They probably will fill it up in the postseason, and it's nice to have. The Saints aren't really a new face, but they've had a couple down years. Nice to see some new faces here competing after. It's been years of you had the Seahawks, the Packers. Those kind of traditional powers are starting to fall to the side, and these young teams are really starting to step up. And there's a lot of fun players to watch on both these teams, like I mentioned, Goff and Kamara.
Yeah, absolutely. And in regard to your point on the Saints being, somewhat relevant again, or actually being a legitimate top contender in the NFC, that's good to see. I like to see Drew Brees do well. I think the league's a better place when a guy like that is excelling, and when a team like that is excelling. And for LA, it's awesome to see a team in a new market actually have a good season, because to build a fan base out there in Los Angeles, you need to be off to a hot start. You got to get some people on the bandwagon to start. But overall, you said it, that the NFC is really up for grabs. Not just the NFC South with now the Panthers and the Saints after the Panthers won and the Saints lost, but just the NFC, the top seed in general, who's going to have home field advantage through the conference championship.
This was another interesting game today. The Jaguars and the Cardinals, a lot of people probably didn't think much of it, but the Jags go out to the desert and lose. They are now 7-4. The Cardinals move up to 5-6. It was Blaine Gabbert versus Blake Bortles, so things got interesting there. I had that miscue a couple weeks ago on the show where I referred to Blaine Gabbert as Blake, or I referred to Blake Bortles as Blaine Gabbert. What this tells me, and I said at the beginning of the year, I thought the Cardinals were one of the worst teams in football, and I'll kind of stick by that. But I just talked about how good the NFC is. The Jaguars are the third seed in the AFC. At least they were going into today. I haven't looked totally how that's changed with tiebreakers. So you have a couple teams at 7-4, but I mean, at the very least, 1 and 2 are competitive with the Patriots and the Steelers. But after that, the AFC is just a whole pile of nothing. There's no reason the third seed in the AFC should lose to a team like the Cardinals. I think actually now Tennessee is going to move up to third. Because they're tied with the Jaguars. I believe they beat them head-to-head, but just nothing of substance in the AFC. And this game right here was all the proof we need that we're heading for another Patriots-Steelers AFC championship.
Yeah, and you're correct about that. Now it's the Titans who are the number 3 seed in the AFC, which shows you exactly where the AFC is at right now. And I don't even look at the Steelers as a team that's really going to be a huge threat for the Patriots. And I see the Eagles. They're good. They're really not playoff tested, though. They haven't really battled through a postseason before. Obviously, the Saints, as we just mentioned, the Rams. But there's really, I mean, it's a theme of the league this season. And to see a team like the Jaguars lose to the Cardinals, which has just been a dumpster fire of an organization this year, it's depressing for the NFL. But you got to give credit where it's due. Phil Dawson, 57-yard field goal. The guy's like 55 years old, and then he's hitting that. So that's always fun to see. It was an exciting finish, at least.
And the interesting part about that one, did you see Dawson waving everybody back to the sidelines there?
That's a veteran move.
Exactly. The veteran knew exactly what was going on, exactly what he needed to do, knowing there was 1 second left on the clock. So one more game that was at least somewhat interesting. The Bucs and the Falcons, NFC South battle. Falcons win this one 34-20. Falcons move to 7-4. Bucs fall to 4-7. Julio Jones goes over 250 yards for the third time in his career. Nobody else has done it more than once. He caught one of his 2 touchdowns, was a throw from Mohamed Sanu. So the Falcons, against a weak opponent, showing some signs of life there in the NFC. But if you're a fan of trick plays, you liked this game.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's what you expect the Falcons to do. It doesn't really change my opinion on them. Julio Jones, though, I've said this in the past. He is, I think, the most skilled wide receiver in the NFL. He showed that today. He's shown that really throughout his career. 12 receptions, 253 yards. Just unbelievable. The fact that he's done that 3 times in his career, he's so dominant. He's the hardest to guard. And a lot of the reason why you looked at the Falcons in years past and been like, why aren't they better? It's because they have these players, these assets like Julio Jones and Matt Ryan and now Devontae Freeman. So you expect them to beat a team like the Bucks, but I don't look at them as a legitimate contender out of that conference.
And you said something that I wanted to mention. Oh, Julio Jones. I've been a staunch defender that Antonio Brown is the best receiver in football. I had Julio Jones at a close number 2. I think I was swayed this week.
Yeah,
Maybe.
yeah.
I don't know.
I just think he's more skilled. I think he's just so when he's on, he's just dominant, and I think he's the hardest to guard. It could be either or. There's really no wrong answer there.
It's what Brown does after the catch that's always wowed me.
Yeah,
And I mean, I don't remember seeing any receiver as good after the catch as he is, at least with his speed. But what Jones' ability on the deep ball is just, I mean, we are reaching Randy Moss levels with him. And for those of you who know me, that's not something I'm going to say lightly. We move on to our S slate here. So we go off just the ESPN scoreboard. I read them off, and I go in whatever order they put them in front of me. And all the good games happen to be at the top, so we should run through this pretty quick here. I hope you stay with the Callin It NFL Roundup for Week 12. The Bengals and the Browns. Cincinnati wins at home 30-16. Bengals are 5-6. Browns are 0-11. The Browns suck. Lebowitz, can the Bengals claw their way back in the playoff hunt? 1 win away from 500.
I don't think so. They have to battle with the Ravens and even the Bills. I need to look at their upcoming schedule, but I just don't look at that team as a serious contender to find their way in the playoffs. I think it's really tight for that last spot, the second wild card. But I think it's going to either the Ravens or the Bills, and who knows? Maybe we could get this later. But maybe benching Tyrod Taylor could have been a benefit. Maybe it lit a fire under his ass, so to speak.
We'll get to that in a second. Meanwhile, for the Browns, their own 11. This was one of their best chances here down the stretch to maybe steal a game. They couldn't do it. The second biggest story in Tennessee today, the Titans beat the Colts 20-16. Titans are 7-4. Colts are now 3-8. It was a close one. Tennessee had to score late to take it. I know some people had this as the niche upset pick of the week. Titans now, after early struggles, right where they should be, first place in the AFC South. And I mentioned I'm not a huge fan of what's going on in the AFC, but a Titans-Steelers game, that maybe should scare Pittsburgh a little bit. This is a team that just the way they play football, they're prone to maybe picking up an upset. This is the one team outside of those top 2 I really have my eye on in the AFC.
Yeah, I don't think for Pittsburgh specifically, there's one team that would be an easy opponent for them that will make it to the playoffs. I just don't think they're that good of a team. I don't think they're going to win every time out against some of these opponents. And the Titans, they're decent. They get the job done. They're not too flashy. And Mariota's been all right this season. He didn't really have a good game today, but they've kind of sneakily been a decent team, and now they're back atop that division, which I don't think a lot of people expected.
Well, I'll tell you this. In terms of that game, I did the ESPN playoff machine came out today. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
If you haven't done it, Google ESPN NFL playoff machine. You can predict all the games. I had the Titans in barely on my playoff machine. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. Back-to-back AFC East games here. The Bills take down the Chiefs 16-10, move to 6-5. Chiefs fall to 6-5. I know you want to talk about the Bills. I'll let you get to that. I'm going to pick on the Chiefs. They were 5-0. I told you all they were fake. I told you all they were a joke, and here we are. People need to stop. I have said it since September. People need to stop overreacting to September football, and the Chiefs will forever be example 1A. The 2017 Chiefs will forever be example 1A of why September really doesn't mean that much in the NFL. You can ruin your season in September, but you cannot by any means make your season in September. The Chiefs are a garbage team. Alex Smith's a garbage quarterback, and here you go.
That's a good rant.
I need to get that off my chest. I've been fired up about that one all day.
So I'll get to the Chiefs. The Bills, I'm starting to think that benching Tyrod could have been a conscious effort to kind of wake him up a bit, because we were all scratching our head. I think everyone was waiting to see if Peterman would be the right choice, to see if he'd actually have a good game and be like, okay, maybe he saw something in this kid that was, worth taking a chance on. That wasn't the case. Maybe it was just intentional. It's like, this kid's trash. I'm starting him over you because you're just not getting the job done. He comes back out and beats a team that, again, not what they were in week 4, week 5, but still a decent opponent. With the Chiefs, yeah, they lost 5 of their last 6. They've just really started to crap the bed. And it's kind of the opposite of what we saw last year. They started off a little slow, and then last 12 weeks of the season, they were one of the best teams in the NFL. It's weird to see this slide for them. But it's just going to benefit the Patriots more, and it's part of the reason it's been such a lackluster season.
Down in New Jersey, the Panthers take down the Jets 35-27. Panthers fall to 8-3. Really could have used a win today with what went on in LA. The Jets, the Panthers did when they moved to 8-3, a big win with what went on in LA. The Jets fall to 4-7. It was close. The Jets needed 17 fourth quarter points to take the game. But of all those teams that are on top of the NFC, and I mentioned a lot of them, the Panthers are the one team that gives me pause. This team has one and done written all over it to me. Cam Newton just has not yet bounced back from that Super Bowl loss, and an almost loss to the Jets. I know there was a controversial call on this one too that really helped the Panthers. This loss to the Jets just I don't want to say seals it for me because we won't know until we see it, but I really feel like the Panthers, of all those great teams in the NFC, are the one that you really shouldn't put too much stock into.
Oh, I completely agree. And this is a game I saw a ton of, but just Newton's stat line, 11 for 28, 168 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, just as bland as you can make it. He really has fallen off quite a bit, and they're benefiting from having a pretty decent defense led by Kuechly. So this is a team, if it's between the Saints and the Panthers, I'm picking the Saints all day, every day. I think this is like a 4th or 5th best, probably the 4th or 5th best team in that conference, maybe not even. So they've just played. They benefited from just winning a lot of close games, but they don't have a ton of talent. Their quarterback's really just not where he should be.
Down in Philly, the NFL has its first 10-win team. That's the Eagles. They're 10-1, 6-0 at home. They defeat the Bears 31-3. Chicago falls to 3-8. This was actually kind of my upset pick for the week. The Bears have been close with a lot of good teams, but now it gets really interesting. The Eagles have at the Rams, which we saw the Saints struggle with today, and at Seattle coming up on their schedule. We are about to find out exactly how real Carson Wentz is and exactly how real this Eagles team is. I have the Eagles out of my NFC Championship as it stands right now. They will win that division. They will get into the playoffs, but they've yet to be battle tested. They have one win this year. One win against a team that's over 500. That came in week 3 against those Kansas City Chiefs that I just called a fraud. So very easy schedule for the Eagles. They've taken advantage of it. I'm not saying they're a bad team, but next week, everybody needs to be watching that with eagle eyes, no pun intended. Let's see exactly what Philly can do when they go up against teams that they're going to play in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think Carson Wentz is a real deal. I think he seems like a player who has ice in his blood, ice in his veins. He makes unreal throws under pressure. He's very mobile. He's just so well-rounded. And it's the attitude factor. He's a humble kid from North Dakota. I'm going to root for him. And I think in that quarterback position, they have it all set. It's all squared away. Their offense is looking really good. And the addition of J.J. Midseason is huge. It comes down to their defense. Can their secondary hold up? Can their defense hold up? We have to wait and see. Obviously, coaching is a factor. They're still the top team in that conference by far, not only record-wise, but just the eye test too. So I think they're not going to do that bad of a job. Who do you say they have? They have the Seahawks.
They are I don't remember the order, but at Seattle and at the Rams still left on their schedule.
Okay,
those are 2 legit games.
Yeah, and you know what? Seattle's defense is really down this season. The Rams are a very young team, just like the Eagles are. I wouldn't be surprised if they won both of those games, and I'm buying into this Eagles thing. Absolutely.
You have them winning both of those games. That's a bold pick.
They could. I'm not saying I'm betting the house on it, but it would not surprise me one bit, especially with the downfall the Seattle defense has taken. And again, the Eagles have the same type of problems or the same type of question marks as the Rams do, or vice versa. They have a young quarterback. This is breakout season. They have a really young coaching staff, and we don't know if they're the real deal yet. So we'll see. I think the Eagles should be the favorites in both of those games, if you ask me, even on the road.
One more game in the books. We just talked about Seattle a little bit. They go down to San Francisco and beat the Niners 24-13. Jimmy Garoppolo, first touchdown pass the Niners. He gets in with a minute to go. CJ Beathard goes down with an injury. That's all I got from this one. Jimmy Garoppolo finally got into a game. Mike Giardi can finally breathe easy a little bit.
Yeah. My big thing is I think Garoppolo, and I don't know if I've been on record as saying this, but I think Garoppolo is going to be a top tier quarterback. He has that it factor too. And considering this guy hasn't played real football in I don't know how long, and he goes out there and his first only drive he's in, he makes a really good throw, evading the pass rush. He's just so calm and cool in the pocket. I know he only had two passes today, but I'm still not over the fact that the 49ers got him for only a second round pick, and they're going to be set because of that, in my opinion.
Look, I like Garoppolo too, and I agree with you. I think he's going to be a good player, but I really like San Francisco not playing him. I think they're being very responsible. And look, they lost their best offensive lineman and their starting tackle today in Joe Staley. I don't know for how long, but he left today's game with an injury. I would not play Garoppolo next week. I would keep him out and just start him fresh next year. That's it for what's in the books. Two games to look forward to tonight. You have the Steelers and the Packers. That's kicking off in about 10 minutes. Cold night in Pittsburgh. Packers are used to it. Obviously, if Aaron Rodgers was still on the field. This is a lot more interesting. The Packers have struggled as of late. Pittsburgh's favored by 2 scores. Do you think the Packers can make a game of it? Lebowitz, obviously, as Patriots fans, we're looking for them to, but I'm just trying to scratch my head for any logic, any way the Packers can maybe make this one interesting, and I think we're going to have another primetime blowout tonight.
Yeah, I'd say it's not going to be it's not even going to be close, if you ask me. The Packers, without Aaron Rodgers, are just not a good football team. If it is even if it's close whatsoever, within a touchdown, within 10 points, if it's back and forth at any point in this game, just shows you, if you're a Pats fan, not to worry. Again, Steelers have been struggling a tad this season, as of late, rather. So I think they'll handle this one easily. If they don't, then you know that the AFC is really, really a lock, more so than we already thought for the Patriots.
And you may notice we have saved our game of the week Monday night. Houston Texans at 4-6 visit the Baltimore Ravens at 5-5.
Yeah. The Ravens.
You have anything on that game?
Ravens are on the cusp for a wild card spot. That's the only thing to look for. So
5-5 is on the cusp of wild card spot, and here we are.
Yeah, yeah, I got nothing.
All right, so that will do it for another edition of the NFL Roundup. We only have 5 more of these, and then I don't know if we're gonna do them for the playoffs. We'll have that discussion, but 5 more full ones, right?
Yeah.
13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I got to count on my fingers. Again, we didn't talk much about the Patriots and the Dolphins game. We will get to that tomorrow on the Callin It Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at Callin It Podcast. Get us on the CLNS Media app as well. We will have that. We will touch on the Bruins tonight. A big loss as Tuukka Rask returns in net. Our first show since the Celtics lost their winning streak. That as well. A lot going on the show tomorrow, so you won't want to miss it. Guests too. We're finalizing that right now. Stay up to date with all of it at Callin It Podcast. Until tomorrow, he's Alex Lebowitz. I'm Alex Barth. This has been the Week 12 NFL Roundup. Thanks for watching, and we will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.